I guess the first thing I wanted to ask you was about the circumstances of making radical rupture, because that's an interesting story.
Well, yeah, I was doing research on various spaces of speculative thinking, so utopian literature, critical theory, left-wing politics, and I'd been researching Herbert Marcuse, and I'd been placing holds on things over the internet through the library, and I thought that I was getting a book, and what ended up happening was I got a vinyl disc of a recording of a 1967 conference that happened in London called the Dialectics of Liberation, and so I had this really compelling audio that seemed like something really interesting to work with. It really spoke to me.
Mm-hmm.
So, literally, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah.
So you used the recorded speech as the basis of the work?
Yeah, that material. That's how I knew I wanted to do something with that specific speech.
Mm-hmm.
So it was Herbert Marcuse giving a speech on liberation from the affluent society, and there was something very, for me, poetic about hearing his voice and the intonations in his voice, where the ideas became embedded within someone's body. They became not so tied to the theoretical. You can hear a person's investment in these ideas, and it was that I was responding to. And what I had wanted to do was somehow take that information as, it's using this kind of thing, it's didactic information, right? There's a program behind what that information is, and so using that in art, I wanted to open that up and open up different relationships to engaging with that material, and that process also speaks to our relationships now. Like, how can we make relationships to this kind of information now? 40 years later, how do we relate to this kind of material? So I wanted to do something that made the experience of relating to it embodied in the present moment, which is why I decided to turn it into an installation, basically, by laying that audio into a video and turning it into projection, and then treating the space in such a way that you can enter the space and perhaps fall into a bit of a reverie while engaging with it, to open it up and allow it to breathe a little bit. So,
can you talk about the projection part of
it? The projection is, well, the image is that of stars appearing one by one on a black ground. So points of light appearing on a black ground, and what ends up happening is that the image of a night sky appears. At a certain point in time, that image is reversed and the stars disappear one by one. So thinking about how we as subjects attempt to relate to systems that are perhaps larger than we can comprehend or really make sense of. So making a relationship between the experience of wonder and looking at things and trying to make sense of things in the external, but knowing that we are also part of them. So that image will be projected rather large scale onto a tilted screen, so that as a viewer you can relax in a kind of lounge area that I will construct on the floor, and relax and tilt your head up and look at this, and also just kind of drift in and out of the text that is being read at the same time. So,
is it important to know how the image is made?
I'm not sure. I think there's something to the fact that it is not a digitally animated image that you're watching. what ends up happening is that since I had created it through building a tilted black foil screen and setting up lights behind that screen, I was sitting behind that screen wearing a black turtleneck and white gloves and poking holes into the tin. Mm-hmm. And what ends up happening is that the more holes are in that screen, the more you can see this movement of my hand behind the screen, and they end up twinkling in this really kind of, I think it's a bit sensual, you know? It's not something that is calculated, it's not something that is really immediately discernible also, but there's some kind of rhythm and some kind of movement. And but I also really like how there's this very direct relationship to the notion of the rupture, which is an idea which is formulated inside Marcuse's text. And that rupture is the activity of proposing a new set of ideas or a way of thinking that is quantitatively different than what exists in the material world now. So that's utopian thinking, it's radical politics, it's anything that attempts to shift a status quo. And he describes that activity as not necessarily, not something that's pragmatic, and so he discusses that as maybe even a poetic gesture, maybe even a metaphysical gesture. And what happens is that it's not a programmatic kind of proposal. It is meant to rupture how we understand things, but how can I explain that? It's about just proposing something different, right? And what ends up happening is that I'm thinking of making this kind of work as a similar kind of gesture, and also the materiality of trying to make this image and this moment of actually poking through a screen as being related to, you know, social structures and speculative thinking. So, yeah.
I'd say that was a wrap.
Okay.